What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to be talking about NFL training camp. It's kicked off, man. We're in full preseason form for the most part. We got a game on Thursday, and good things happening, bad things happening, and a whole lot of things that we need to talk about today. So let's not waste any time, man. We got a full hour-long show here packed with news and notes. Let's bring our co-host in right now, though, MFGDs. Let's add him to the stream here right now. What's up, man?
Hey, man. What's up, everybody? MFGD's in the building.
There we go. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Just getting this training camp buzz, just filling the air. I love it. Can't wait till everything gets started. The real bullets start flying.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple things already happen, so I'm sure we got a lot of stuff that we can talk about today. And I want to say just first, I guess we should just jump into it, man. There's so much stuff that we can talk about. We're just going to be talking a whole bunch of football for an hour long, but I think the biggest thing that everybody is talking about right now is Jonathan Taylor. So, Jonathan Taylor, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know what's going on, I'll read you the report here. It is that Colts running back Jonathan Taylor has officially requested a trade after meeting with owner Jim Irsay. And I will just read you out this timeline, and then I want to hear your thoughts on this war and see where you stay. But here's how the drama has unfolded. This is like a full TV show at this point. It's Love Island or whatever you want it to be. It is all of the drama with Jonathan Taylor. But Jim Irsay tweeted about the running back situation. He said that agents are selling bad faith. So because of that, apparently Jonathan Taylor took offense to it. He went to the GM, Chris Ballard, asked to be traded several days before that. But Jonathan Taylor's agent tweeted out and responded to Jim Irsay and said, it's bad faith to not pay your best players. Jim Irsay says that the team hasn't and doesn't plan on offering Jonathan Taylor an extension. Jim Irsay invites Jonathan Taylor onto his private bus. They have a meeting, and then not long after the meeting, Jonathan Taylor's trade request becomes public, and Irsay reaffirms that they will not be offering him an extension. Ursay says, if I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, nobody will miss us. Colts are now considering placing Jonathan Taylor on the NFI list, so that would forfeit his 2023 salary. But then Jonathan Taylor shows up to camp and then he gets hurt in camp. So now they can't put him on the NFA or NFI list. Dude, this thing is ridiculous. I want to hear your thoughts. What's your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor's situation? Do you think he gets traded? Do you think this is what is this, man?
I think, first of all, I don't think he gets traded. I heard somewhere that he's asking for it. I think his cap refuted this claim. I heard he's asking for $16 million a year. Yeah, not happening. Um,
Mm-mm.
um, I think what's going to end up happening here is eventually the guy's just going to report to camp. I think Le'Veon Bell, as you've said before, showed us that running backs who decide that they want to skip the entire season, things don't usually pan out too well for them. So I do think that Jonathan Taylor will return to camp at some point. As far as Jim Irsay, dude, just be quiet, man. Like he just needs to be quiet. He's always saying something makes people immediately want to drug test him. Yeah, this whole thing is just a complete and utter mess. Like there's no other way to describe it, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching NFL Network, and he even doubled down. He like was on there talking about like when this team was in shambles, I was the one who put billions of dollars into this organization. I was the one who fixed this thing. I like he was doubling down, and it's like
Yeah,
he's like it doesn't matter who the hell is in the uniform. I'm the guy who calls the shots. So everybody needs to listen to me because I make the calls around here. Like he was basically putting it all out on the table and was like, "Yeah, I'm him. I'm him."
yeah. Jim, oh man, Jim Irsay is a fool. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm gonna keep my words nice and sweet. He's a fool. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
So as we talk Jonathan Taylor, I know you said you don't think he's being traded. There have been a couple teams that have
Mm-hmm.
had names get popped up over the last couple days. So I'll go
Mm-hmm.
through some of these teams that I've heard. One of which being the Kansas City Chiefs, another being the New England Patriots. Um, And those are really the two of the big ones that I've heard, but I've also heard that if the Jets don't sign Dalvin Cook, they could trade for Jonathan Taylor. What the hell would happen if Brees Hall and Jonathan Taylor are on the team together?
I think that's just like a little too much of stuff going on and going around. They already have Brees in camp. Then like they have Michael Carter, which I know he doesn't really factor into things, but
Yeah.
I think that's doing a little bit too much. I would be flabbergasted if Jonathan Taylor ended up getting traded to the Jets of all teams.
Dude, it would be that would be the worst thing possible for dynasty managers. We talk about how that running back position is devalued and in dynasty it's hard to kind of find guys that you can trust and ironically, Brees Hall and Jonathan Taylor are two of the guys that we thought we could trust. And it feels like now we still can't. So it's like, is anybody trustworthy in your dynasty fantasy football leagues at the running back position? Is anybody?
No, it appears that nobody is safe at that position.
Is
I mean, that's the
Bijan?
only thing I think of. Yeah, no.
Nobody's safe. All right. Well, as we continue going through these pieces of notes, let me pull up this one. I have them all right here. And actually, I want to talk about this. Actually, no, we won't do that right now. I was going to pull up some clips because there have been some highlights that I wanted to kind of hype up. But let's talk about. We already touched on it. Let's talk about Dalvin Cook because free agent Dalvin Cook observed the Jets practice on Sunday. He's taking a physical. Sounds like everything that they're saying is that they're about as good as done. It's just figuring out the money situation. So, how do you feel about Dalvin Cook as a New York Jet? I know we've talked about Dalvin Cook a lot on the show over the last few weeks because it seems like the saga has kind of not really gotten any closure, but it seems like we're about as close as we're going to get. It seems like he's going to be a New York Jet.
Yes. Yeah, man. Dalvin. It appears that Dalvin might be getting signed. He. I heard something where the Jets were saying that they're not so sure that he's in a rush to sign. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, they said they don't think he's in a rush because he still wants to like test the market and see if he can get money. But I feel like he's been out testing the market for how long has it been now? Like 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's been about six. It's been a while, man. He's dragging his feet, and I think if the Jets have something on the table for him, he needs to just go ahead and sign it because there are the viable options out there. So I mean, he might be he get left out in the cold if he doesn't put something on paper real soon.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a report that came out today. I guess beat reporters around Miami are saying that the vibe in Dolphins camp is that they're not really like pursuing Dalvin Cook. Like they view him as kind of like a luxury signing if he decides he wants to do that, but like they're not really going to push for him because they don't want to pay him a ton of money. And they also are happy enough with who they have in camp right now that
Right.
he's just kind of
Yeah.
a luxury. So they're not really pushing for him either, which I know we all thought that Miami was probably the best spot for him.
Mhm.
Looks like they don't really care.
Miami, Buffalo, all the players that we thought were front runners to land Dalvin, it looks like they're actually not going to be the front runners.
Yeah, exactly. As far as fantasy goes, man, I think Dalvin Cook. I think what this tells me is the fact that they're bringing him in, they're doing the whole little parade with him. The fact that they've had Hard Knocks following him around for the show. I mean, it's good TV, I guess. But when it's all said and done, I think this tells me a little bit of what I think I already knew about Brees Hall is these injuries. They take a while to recover from. Brees Hall isn't 100%. They need another guy in there, and they must not be comfortable with who they have behind him.
They must not be comfortable. If they're still out there looking, I mean, this whole running back carousel has just kind of been crazy to me, man. I'm going to be completely honest. It's been nuts. There's still guys out there, so there's still so
Zeke,
much room for chaos to occur with
yeah.
everything that's going on. I mean, we're still waiting to see. I'm pretty sure you're going to touch on it soon, but the Kamar thing, meeting with Goodell, there's just so much chaos in the running back position.
I wasn't actually going to plan on touching on it, but he's pleading his case to Goodell for why he needs a smaller suspension and wants to tell his side of the story. And like you said, more chaos with like Kareem Hunt looming out there, Ezekiel Elliott looming out there. Like there's a bunch of guys, man, and um, it doesn't seem like there's a bunch of landing spots around. I mean, I think these guys are kind of waiting for these camp injuries to happen and
Mhm.
then they'll sign or something like that where they can get a starting job and prove that they still have it. But at the end of the day, man, it's messy. I mean, this running back position is messy, man, and it's hard to invest in it as a dynasty fantasy football player, and it kind of puts you in a weird position because these teams that we play with, we need good production at the running back position to win championships. But that comes at a price tag. And it's like the long term value that you're getting out of these guys is it's tough, man. And that's why I think I've been on here preaching and saying for, the whole time that we've been doing this, that those should be the final last. Like everything else on the team looks great. And you need the running back to push you over the edge. That should be the only
Yep.
time that we're buying them. If you're not a top 3 team and you're not ready to go for that chip, like keep kicking the can down the road, man. Draft some rookies in your rookie drafts and let those guys just be on your team. But the running back position is so bad, man, and it's kind of sad and kind of annoying because having a good running back on your fantasy football teams is fun, man. It's so fun to watch one of those guys that can go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns any given week, and you have the big plays and the stiff arms and all the other stuff. It's fun to watch those guys, but it seems like they're so devalued at the moment.
I mean, let's call it what it is. If anybody who's watching, they're trying to get a leg up in dynasty fantasy football. Here's a simple thing you can do every season: pick up every single running back who is drafted or signed with a team undrafted. If you could get 6 or 7 of those guys on your roster, on your bench, there's a good chance that 1 or 2 of them might pop and actually end up being able to do something for you. Guys like Deneric Prince, for
Mhm.
example, got Sean
Tucker.
Tucker, guys like that. There's a guy, and I'll say this, and I've been watching his value slowly creep up. His name, I don't even know if I can say his name correctly, Imari DeMarcado. Okay. He's on the Arizona Cardinals, and he's behind James Conner. I don't know who else is in that backfield.
Ingram,
So,
Keontae Ingram, Corey
Ingram.
Clement.
Yeah. So, I mean, Keontae Ingram, we're assuming he's pegged in as the guy, but a guy like DeMarcado could be a guy where week 6 out of nowhere, because James Conner is for all intents and purposes a little bit injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
Keontae Ingram, we don't know what he'll be like carrying the workload. I mean, we'll see, man. Like, he's definitely out there. He's available in most of your leagues, guaranteed. And if you have any bench spot, that's what I like to do. I like to look at running back group situations. I feel like the Cardinals situation is very vulnerable. So any undrafted guy that's even on that roster at the running back position, I'm putting them on my team, and I'm just seeing where the cards fall.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And even to kind of piggyback off of that and talk about some of these rookie running backs, like in my rookie drafts, and you'll notice that I did this a lot in our leagues that I play in with you, War. Like as we got into the mid to late second, the third rounds of these rookie drafts, I'm just taking running backs. Like I'm not really looking at wide receivers. I every once in a while I'll look at a tight end if there's some tight ends there. Like I got Sam Laporta and some
Mm-hmm.
things like that, but I'm looking at running backs because the likelihood of that third rounder or the fourth rounder running back, even the fifth round running back, to get an injury ahead of him and then find his way onto the field and then prove something is just much more likely than that fifth, sixth, seventh round wide receiver that you're going to draft in that third round, because they have to have 2 or 3 injuries to become the number one guy, or they just have to be a complete like breakout and nobody saw it coming. But that running back position, like this year, in those rounds, I was able to grab Tajay Spears, Tank Bigsby. I could have grabbed Roshan Johnson. I let you have him because you're the Bears guy. There's like a bunch of guys that you can just draft in those rounds, and these guys can find their way into playing time easily.
Kenny McIntosh.
Kenny McIntosh, he was undrafted in some leagues.
Drafted in some leagues, yes. And now look at him. He's getting
It's
his opportunity in camp, and he's showing what he can do. So,
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to do that when you got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet on the sideline watching you play every day. So, again, it just shows how fragile the position is. Even your boy Roshan missing practice today.
yeah, seen that.
So,
Seen that.
who knows, man? I guess Khalil Herbert. Go get Khalil Herbert if you want, because he might take snaps.
Actually, I actually heard a little tidbit. You know me, I'm always watching the Chicago beat. I
Okay.
heard a little tidbit that said, don't be surprised Deontay Foreman ends up taking that spot because of his ability to block. So, I mean,
Man, I don't know,
I don't
man.
think that's going to happen.
Well, while we're on the running backs, there's a couple more that I have to talk about. We have 3 or 4 more guys, and actually, we just touched on it. So I'll read the full report because it was one I wanted to put in the show because you are the Bears guy. So Matt Eberflus says Roshan Johnson missed Tuesday's practice with an undisclosed injury. He didn't really go into specifics, didn't really give a timetable. I don't know. It's possible that this is a non-issue in about 24 hours, but when they don't disclose an injury, it's always a little bit worrisome because they didn't disclose the injury to Zach Charbonnet, and then a couple days later, it was like, oh, he's out indefinitely. So, are you worried as the Bears guy? You're tapped in. Are you worried about Roshan, or you think this is no big deal?
No, I'm not worried. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm just gonna do like a quick little gander here real quick. I think in regards to that, I think I seen something in regards to the Bears stating that Eberflus has decided that he's not going to give any medical information on any of the guys that a little bit dinged up on the Bears during
Okay.
camp right now. So I think this is a non-issue. He'll probably be back in practice by the end of the week. Yeah, I don't think it's anything serious.
Fair enough. I've been doing. You've seen. I've been doing a bunch of these best ball drafts on Underdog, diversifying portfolios. I just throw a dart. When I get to the late rounds, the value on Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson is so good in those drafts that some drafts I'll just take Khalil, some I take Roshan, and you know I
Mm.
might get the guy eventually. We don't know who it's going to be, but the value's so good on these guys that one of them is going to be the starter. I mean, it's if I had to choose based on my evaluation of the guys, I think Roshan Johnson is the best running back in the backfield. Um, so I think he will be the starter, and I think he'll be the starter as soon as week one, assuming that the injury is nothing serious. So I would be taking the shot on him. But it seems like a lot of people have really left Khalil Herbert for dead, and I think the value you can get on him. Speaking of going and buying these running backs for cheap, he's one of those guys you can get pretty cheap, and maybe you get the guy.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I,
You
I think
good?
I got him for pennies. I got him for pennies in one of our leagues, and I just have a rule. I don't have any Foreman shares in any leagues. It's either Herbert or Roshan Johnson.
Okay. Yeah,
I
I
just
agree.
with the age. I think Foreman is like 27, 28. I just don't see any value there. I mean, with all due respect,
Yeah,
I'm picking one or the other.
I agree. Um, Ezekiel Elliott, I said we're going to stick on these running backs. There's a couple more, so bear with us. If you don't like running backs, you can dip out, go get a drink of water, come back in about 5 minutes. We'll be done with this. But we got Patriots who are visiting with free agent Ezekiel Elliott. He's out at dinner with Mac Jones the other night, and seems like the Patriots are pretty adamant on adding a guy to the backfield. They had been attached to Dalvin Cook. They had some. There you go. They'd been they'd been attached to Dalvin Cook. There was links there. They were linked. We just talked about it. They've been a linked trade candidate to Jonathan Taylor, and now they're bringing in Ezekiel Elliott, or they brought in Ezekiel Elliott. Seems like they want somebody to pair with Ramondre Stevenson. This is probably not the news that people wanted, who are rostering Ramondre Stevenson, because everybody thought that he was going to be this bell cow. And if he is the bell cow, they thought that the ceiling for him was going to be like one of those top 5, top 10 guys this year. My question to you is, was that a figment of our imaginations the whole time? Was this like inevitable that Bill Belichick was bringing in another guy, or are you disappointed that they're not going to go with Ramondre?
There's an old song. It goes, "It was just my imagination." That's what's going on. That's what's going on. Ramondre, he's not going to be the bell cow. According to Bill Belichick, he probably was never going to be the bell cow, and they're showing it. This isn't the first foray they went into trying to find a guy to pair with him. And honestly, if I have Ramondre as my running back one or something like that. Even in some cases, depending on who my running back three is, if he's my running back two, I'm trying to sell that guy. Like who would you take right now? I think I know your answer. I mean, it's probably gonna be an easy answer for you. You know who I'm gonna say.
Hit me with it.
Javante, Ramondre. Which one are you taking right now?
This season or Dynasty?
Dynasty.
Javante, but it's probably closer than you think, honestly. For me,
Well, it ain't close to me. It's pretty far apart.
I think
I hate the Patriots. I hate the Patriots running back system. I absolutely hate it. These guys draft guys and replace them. Honestly, I got Pierre Strong on a few teams. Would I be surprised if Pierre Strong is getting meaningful touches a game? No, I
no.
wouldn't be surprised because of the freaking New England Patriots. They
Well,
just don't value. They're like the originators of not valuing running backs.
I
So
will say his underdog fantasy ADP has dropped just a tiny bit over the last little while. But at one point this offseason, Ramondre Stevenson was being drafted as the running back 7 um, in underdog drafts for redraft purposes and best ball purposes. And that felt like you were drafting him at like his absolute ceiling.
yeah,
Um, and it was just, I don't know. He's since dropped to running back 9, so I guess you can get him in at running back 9, but that still feels high to me. I'll tell you some of the guys going beneath him is Josh Jacobs, Brees Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, um, and then that's kind of where the list I think stops because it's Aaron Jones, Kenneth
Jameer
Walker,
Gibbs
Alexander
and
Madison.
Najee kind of just has me. Yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, maybe I mean, you think I'm using hindsight, and I think it's kind of wild that Ramondre is getting picked above Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Do you think that's just hindsight, me looking at how he's been handled right here and now, or
No, because I don't think he's been a buy this entire offseason. And I've heard some advice from some very, very credible and very big dynasty content analysts or fantasy analysts or whatever you want to call them. I don't give a damn what you call them. But some pretty big people that were saying just a month ago or a month and a half ago that I remember specifically because I was driving to Trenton, New Jersey to do some tax stuff for my job. And I'm listening to this podcast on my phone, and they're talking about buying Ramondre Stevenson. He's a buy right now. Go buy Ramondre Stevenson. And I thought that that was such ill-advised advice that I was like that I couldn't fathom telling some people to go buy Ramondre Stevenson, but at the same time, if he is your guy, I don't fault you for buying in. I just think it was so risky at the time, and it's proven to be risky. And again, nothing has happened yet. Ramondre is still the guy. They didn't bring in another guy yet. There is a world where they don't, but it's just risky at his price tag right now. Um, Hell, we play with a guy who called him the dynasty running back one. We play with a guy who said that. And
yep, I was thinking about him the entire time during the segment.
and that I just think if there's people that are so high on Ramondre Stevenson that you can trade Ramondre and buy into an injured Brees Hall or buy into an injured Javonte Williams or a Travis Etienne or really any of these guys. And the reality is that I've even been on record saying that I don't love Travis Etienne, but I would rather have Travis Etienne than Ramondre Stevenson. And it's just ill. It's such bad practice, I think, to buy into these guys when the value gets that high. In reality, what we should be doing with running backs, and we're getting back to this running back conversation, is like when the value gets up there like that, that's when you sell, you get a discounted running back, go find a Javonte Williams, find somebody who's being valued lower, get some stuff thrown in on top, and then recoup that value and do it again. When Javonte goes up because he has a good season and he's being valued in the top 10 again, sell his ass, go get somebody who's low, and then recoup the value on top. Just do it over and over and over again.
So in a roundabout way, you're saying we should treat fantasy running backs the same way they treat running backs in real life. So I mean, these
Absolutely.
fantasy running backs
Absolutely.
are going to have a Zoom call. They're going to be saying, "Oh yeah, Ward, Andrew, Shane, Brandon, that they're not treating us right. We should be worth 500 fab, not 200 fab." Like, so that's basically like what we're saying here.
Yeah, they use their first and second round draft picks on us in the rookie draft. They use us for 3 years and then they sell us off to somebody for pennies on the dollar.
I'm telling you right now, in a league, if I can trade a late, a clearly late first, so that means that if I'm a contender who knows my team is good and I need a running back to get over the top and I can move a late first for Ramondre, I'm doing it. Or if I'm a team that can move 2 seconds or something for Ramondre, I'm doing it. But I am not the team who's going to trade good draft capital for Ramondre at this point. I am absolutely not doing that.
It sounds crazy, but think like we could take where Ramondre is being valued right now. You can take Ramondre Stevenson and you can go to the Miles Sanders manager and you can say, "Give me Miles Sanders and a first." And there are people who will do that trade. And then you take Miles Sanders, you use him for the season because we both are in agreement that we think Miles Sanders is going to be good this year, right?
Yes, absolutely. I
So
have a team where I'm just heavily relying on the Miles Sanders breakout. I'm
So you
heavily
buy.
behind on.
I agree. I've been buying him everywhere. But you buy Miles Sanders, you get the first on top, and then next year when the rookie draft comes around, you draft Travion Henderson, Braylon Allen, one of these running backs, and then you just sell Miles Sanders and keep that rookie running back, or you do it over and over and over again. You don't even have to buy a running back. Go get Deontay Johnson and a first round pick, and then you draft a rookie, and so on and so on. So it's just
That's the thing that sucks though, is that I only got Miles in one league because I know I can't get Miles from you. So
I have been buying him everywhere. You've seen it.
yeah,
I've been buying him everywhere. The value is just too good on him. I traded Alexander Madison straight across for him. And speaking of which, Alexander Madison left practice today with an injury too. I don't think it's serious, but one thing to keep note is that when he left practice, um, Dwayne McBride, our 7th round rookie, took all the first team snaps over Ty Chandler. So it looks like that if Alexander Madison goes down, Dwayne will be the next man up.
hmm.
So that's something to monitor. And we don't know how serious Madison's injury is, but he left practice, did not play the rest of the day. So it's something to monitor with him. Now, as we get into some of this other news, I really do want to stop talking running backs because we've been talking about them so much, and
I
we
feel
keep
like the
touching on
Vikings should have kicked the tires on JT a little bit if he's available. To be
maybe
honest,
I really don't mind. It sounds gross, but like I don't mind the Vikings if they go out and they say, "Hey, like we're gonna sign Kareem Hunt and we'll do an RBBC with Madison and Hunt this year." Like I don't mind if they do that.
yeah, that'd be yeah.
So we just talked about Javonte Williams. You've been a Javonte Williams guy all offseason.
I had
Reports coming out that he is not even being limited in camp anymore. Like
I've seen it.
everything that they've been giving us, which I have been saying pump the brakes. I have been on record multiple times saying, calm down. We know how these
Yeah,
injuries go. He's not limited and it looks like he's going. So I got the ick a little bit. I'm still nervous, but it looks like they're going. They're going with it.
you don't know how bad I wish you had flashback capabilities right now to show how I was pounding table about Javante a few weeks ago. I still feel like that. Every report that comes out, I'm like, I told you, Andrew. I told you. Every report that comes out, I told you. Javante Williams. Javante Williams is about to run over the league with his repaired knee.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to me that he's come back this quickly with no limitations. Um I, I'm no doctor. I'll go on record and say I'm no doctor, man. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to medical stuff. I know history of medical fantasy football injuries or NFL injuries. I know what has happened, how this has happened, and players that it could relate to who have similar injuries. This is abnormal. I want people to understand that what Javonte Williams is doing right now is abnormal. This is not how it usually goes. Um, so that's why I am nervous about it. But at the end of the day, like the doctors who see him every day are putting him out on the practice field saying, you can do everything, go out and do everything. And they see him every day.
I'm not nervous because I'll let you in on a little secret. Javante's not a man, he's a machine. He's a machine. He's a football running machine, and he's about to stump a mud hole in the league and walk it dry. That's what
Well,
he's going to
the two, the or the tape at North Carolina proved it. I mean, when he was coming in, he was my running back one. I liked him more than Najee. I liked him more than ETN, and it just hasn't worked out that way so far. But the tape, I loved it. I mean, he's a beast when he runs.
He is, man, like Marshawn Lynch-esque.
Yeah, it's
Marshawn
it's
Lynch-esque.
it's good, and I hope he's healthy because right now, let's just talk about it. I saw on Twitter some people were advising that the price is too high. The price is too high on Javonte Williams right now. He's being drafted as running back 27.
I'll put it to you like this, Drew, for a little context. I'm in a league where I have my two quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. My wide receivers are JJ, DJ, T,
Okay.
JT, and then I got JSN,
The
and I
alphabet.
have Miles Sanders, and I have Javante. If Javante Williams is even a low end running back one, I feel pretty damn good that I'm going to win.
Well, it's a good team. We lost you with the camera, but I can still hear you, so we're gonna keep going. But um, it's it's interesting. I mean, he's being drafted by like Isaiah Pacheco, Alvin Kamara, James Cook. That's kind of where he's being drafted right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I got a pretty good chance there.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I just mentioned his name, so we have two more running backs to talk about. James Cook is next. He's next on the list. James Cook is. And
Yeah,
Bills offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey has said that James Cook is a 3-down back, and they're using him as so. So the highlights are coming out of Bills camp. It looks like he's running routes, wheel routes, catching touchdowns, doing. Is James Cook breakout season among us?
that kind of grinds my gears a little bit because I sold him for pennies in a couple leagues earlier because I just knew the Bills were going to bring in a guy to be in that backfield with him. I thought at one point it was his brother, but now I'm starting to think maybe the reason why his brother didn't go there is because his brother is doing too good for his brother to come in there.
I mean, the reality of it is like they did bring in another guy. They bring in Damian Harris, but Damian Harris isn't like a world beater by any means. You bring
He's
him
not.
in, and he's gonna, his YPC is good. He's gonna be able to play on the goal line. But at the end of the day, like James Cook is explosive, and he looked pretty good at the end of the season last year. Like there were some games that he put together, and he's a second round draft pick. He was drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. Like
Yeah,
they
he was.
invested into him to be their guy. I think they're
Yeah.
going to give it a go. If anything, it looks like they're going to let him go this year and see how he does. If he does well, then I think, this is his backfield for sure for the rest of his rookie contract. And I say
I
that
think
after we
they're
said,
playing with. I think they're playing with house money. They have Damian Harris there. They have a quarterback that can run. There's running backs available for the taking if they need them. So why not just let him just do his thing and see where things go? I mean,
yeah,
why not?
no, I agree. And I hope that he does well because what James Cook did really, really well coming out was he was a pass catching running back. Like he was being utilized a lot in the pass catching game at Georgia. Um, and at the end of the day, like if you play in a PPR league and they're going to utilize him in the passing game, you need those guys that can catch 4, 5, 6 footballs a game because in PPR leagues, ironically enough, those guys that catch those passes, even if they don't run for 100 yards every week, they are more valuable to your fantasy football teams in a points per game standpoint than some of these grinders that rush for 80 yards and catch 0 passes. They're just more valuable.
Now I'm going to do my customary thing whenever we do Let's Talk Dynasty, where you get
Send
me
some trade
hyped up
offers.
and I start looking. I start looking through the leagues to see can I get James Cook from someone? Is there a sucker who will trade me James Cook? Let's see who has him.
Well, I have him in gamblers, so you won't be able to get him there.
Yeah. Won't be able to get him from you.
But maybe in Tea
Uh,
Party you can get him.
maybe.
But
Okay, Shade. Oh, okay, never mind. Shade. We know Shade, right?
yeah.
He has Dalvin and James, so I don't think. I
Mm.
think it's a package deal. I probably can't get one without he probably is doing the whole I got both brothers
I
thing.
got two
So
brothers and you can have both of them for the price of one.
yeah, the one will probably be a hot first round pick, I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably. So I said we only had one more running back, but we're going to talk about another guy who's in his second season, potentially another breakout candidate as well. If you haven't guessed it by now, his name is Rashad White. ESPN's
Hmm.
Jeremy Fowler is reporting that Bucks coaches are buzzing about Rashad White. They're saying that they see superstar potential in Rashad. Um, they said he's expanded his route tree this offseason. He's catching footballs. He already caught 50 footballs last year. Is Rashad White about to get utilized like a bell cow this year?
I don't know, Andrew. Now, if Rashad White gets utilized as a bell cow, I'm gonna be upset with you. I'm gonna be a little upset with you, sir.
Why? Because
Because
I was talking some negative stuff about Rashad White earlier this season.
no, because a couple weeks ago, I sent you a team that I had, and you told me that my team wasn't ready enough for me to trade for Deebo Samuel. You said, don't trade for Deebo Samuel. My team isn't ready to compete. But if Rashad White goes off or Jahmyr Gibbs goes off, I think my team's going to be ready to compete.
That's fair.
So
That's fair. I think, but I'm going to defend myself as well here, War. You said when I said that, you said, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. You said that.
I did. Okay, you're right. I did say that.
So I'm gonna defend myself a tiny bit, but at the end of the day, I know I was getting in some heated arguments with Brandon. Um, I can't even remember where I was going. I was sitting in an airport and I'm sitting there just chatting, waiting to get on my flight. And I'm just going back and forth with Brandon and B Dub, and we're talking about Rashad White and Alexander Madison. Um, and I said that I didn't really see a difference between the two. I said that Rashad White probably gets utilized in the passing game a little bit more than Alexander Madison, but I said from an efficiency standpoint and the way that they run, it didn't feel like Rashad White. I really don't see top 10 in the range of outcomes this year. I mean, I guess that it can happen. I just think the probability of it happening is not very high. It's actually probably very low. And I think it's equal to what it would be with like an Alexander Madison. So they were saying that like a Rashad White is a lot more valuable than Alexander Madison. And I was arguing that I would have traded Rashad White for Madison plus some extra value on top. That was my argument. And then a day or two later, they cut Dalvin Cook, and then the whole narrative changed.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see, man. I'm going to have a hard time just accepting that because Baker Mayfield's still the quarterback. Like, they load the box, then what's going to happen? So we'll
Apparently,
see.
he's looking good. They said he's looking good and he's
Ooh,
holding off Trask. Baker,
I believe that when I see it.
they said he's getting his mojo back in Tampa Bay.
What else they gonna say? what else
I
are
don't
they
know.
gonna say? Oh yeah, Baker's trash.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Trask is probably so bad that like they're like, yeah, let me order a Baker's dozen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. But I do have this that I want to show, or we're gonna get off of the running backs. That's what we're gonna do.
Let's
Let's
get
talk
off on
about.
because it's somebody I want to go off on, and I hope you bring them up.
Okay,
I
because
hope
as
you
we
bring them
as
up.
we get to the end of the show, I'm gonna allow you to kind of let us know some of the hype that you've been hearing and what you want to talk about. If we don't touch
Okay.
on it, I'm trying to touch on as much as I can because there've been a lot of stuff going on. But we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about some of these rookies because they're all going to their first training camp. We're getting some buzz. We're hearing some good things, and one of the guys that is catching me a little bit by surprise, not a lot. If you watch the content, you've known that I picked him as a sleeper in your rookie
Mhm.
drafts. But keep in mind, when I say a sleeper, I don't mean I think he's going to be a star. And the sounds of it are that the Chiefs are in love with Rashee Rice. And what they're saying about him is that he's taking all of the first team reps in training camp. He's led all of the receivers during those drills. And they said in the very, very early days of training camp, it is all exciting news for Rashee Rice, who was selected with the number 55 overall pick. So seems like his ADP might see a little bit of a skyrocket. Um, Another guy that's been getting some buzz is Justin Ross in that camp. My question to you is, what do you think about Rashee Rice? Sky Moore has been getting some buzz out of camp. Is that kind of the three wide receiver set that you think is going to be the starters for them this year? Do you think it's Ross, Rice, and Moore?
I'm gonna tell you one thing.
Tony's
Let me
there too.
get up close and personal real quick. I'm gonna tell you one thing. When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs in the offseason, I don't give a damn what they say about what's going on in camp because it's always a damn lie. It's always a damn lie. Freaking McCole Hardman. Who was the guy before Nicole Hardman? The guy that I anointed the second coming of Jesus Christ. Who
Yeah.
was it? freaking you know who I'm talking about. He was a running back.
I mean,
Small.
you were so big on. Let me go back to this. I was going to show you some stuff that's been happening in camp, but you were so big on Isaiah Pacheco, and you and I went to war
Shake.
about Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And funny enough, Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked really good until he was hurt, and then Isaiah Pacheco comes in and he looked really good, and then he missed time, and Jerick McKinnon looked really good.
Yeah, that's true. I think as long as Mahomes is your quarterback, they can just churn out guys and just keep the wheel moving.
And now it's
Keep
Deneric Prince. He's the next guy.
He's the next guy. But I wish I could remember the first guy, the guy that came before McCall Hardman. The
Are you
guy that
talking
I
about
was
a
just
wide receiver?
I feel like it's a running back. A small late round running back that I just
What was his name?
yeah, see, it's so bad we can't remember his name.
What was his name, bro? I remember you were so high on him and like Reddit forums were going nuts over this guy. And then he didn't even make the team, right? Like he got cut from the 53 man.
No, he made it. He made it like a couple years and then he got cut. Oh my god, this is gonna bug me, dude. I'm gonna be looking this up the rest of the show.
While you're looking that up, I will show some of these highlights of Rashee Rice. Because he's been going nuts. Let me add this to the stream. We'll give this the full screen because they can still hear us. And we'll just go from here. But it looks like they're utilizing him in some gadget roles. Like, oh, let me mute this. We don't want any copyright.
No, none at all.
Coldplay in the background or whatever that was. Nickelback. Some white people stuff. And I can say that. But you see, they're using him in some gadget roles. Let's run that back one more time. Taking it out of the backfield right here. Wait for it. Boom. Catch it. Cut up field. Take it all the way to the end zone. They're using him in some gadget roles. Let's go back and look at some of these other ones because there was another catch that he made earlier this week. Let's mute this again too.
Who the hell is that? Oh, that's Rashid.
And here's Justin Ross. Yeah, man. Look, they're MVS. Like they got everybody out here looking good. Whoever number 31 is getting cooked.
They got on the pads too.
Yeah, they got the pads on. But that first one is Rashee Rice. Let's go back and watch that one more time. Here he is. Just lost him right off the line of scrimmage, cooked him, and then that's a touchdown when you're playing real football right there. But yeah, man, it looks like Rashee Rice has been kind of balling out as far as training camp has been going. Do you think is there a chance that Rashee Rice is the leading wide receiver for them for fantasy football this year?
I don't trust it.
You don't trust
I just don't trust it. I find it really difficult to trust anything like with the Chiefs and like these young players that come in. I feel like it's just Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like it's his show. I don't trust it, man. It's so hard. Like I have PTSD from misappropriated Kansas City Chiefs skills players. If your name's not Kelsey, I don't trust you.
They spread the ball out so much that it's kind of hard to tell. But another guy, as we go in here and we talk about rookie wide receivers, because we're going to stay on this topic for a little bit, is another guy who's been lighting it up in camp. And if you probably saw it in our chat because I was talking about it before this show, but Jackson Smith-Njigba looks
I've heard
entirely the part. I mean, he looks like he is that dude. And everything coming out of Seahawks camp has been incredible. I mean, Pete Carroll is just beaming over Jackson Smith-Njigba. Seems like Geno Smith is just in love with having him in that slot role. They're saying that he's been by far the superstar of the camp.
Darwin Thompson.
You're right. It was Darwin.
That's the guy.
It was Darwin.
You couldn't freaking beat Damian Williams and take his. I'm not going to go back there. Yeah. Let's go back to JSN.
Yeah. So,
JSN has been awesome. Like, I didn't believe you when you told me earlier this offseason that there was a chance that JSN could carve out a role on the Seahawks offense. Now I'm
yeah,
wondering,
because I told you, I said that I would expect by midseason he's officially like topped Tyler Lockett as the second target getter there. And then I really do not think that it's out of the range of outcomes that he becomes the number one target for the Seahawks by this time next year. Like, I think he could be the guy in the Seattle wide receiver room, and that's with DK Metcalf there. And the reality of it is that DK Metcalf is a great wide receiver, but when I look at the way that these guys play football, JSN is like 7-Eleven, man. He is always open.
I feel like, okay, how can I say this? Because in totality, like if we're talking about like in terms of a human being, DK is probably a 5 tool player. But if we're talking about in terms of like the wide receiver position in the NFL, JSN is closer to a 5 tool player than DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is what, like a just typical like what out route guy type of like just spread the field type of thing.
For what it's worth,
JSN could get it on all levels, like every
yeah,
level on the
I
field.
agree. I think for
So
what
he
it's
could do
worth,
JSN can honestly probably do DK's job and Tyler Lockett's job. He could do both.
yeah, no, I agree. And for what it's worth, DK Metcalf did improve as a route runner last year. He did take a step forward. So I think DK Metcalf, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that DK is going to get overtaken because he's bad. I'm saying that JSN is that good
That good.
that he's
Yeah.
going to overtake. And
Yeah.
it may be a year or a year and a half from now that he actually does overtake the wide receiver one position, but I think he's going to be good for fantasy football this year. I really do not think it is out of the range of the outcomes that come the championship weeks for you where you're playing playoff rosters in your redrafts, your dynasty leagues, any other league that you're playing in. Like, he might be a plug and play wide receiver 2 for your lineups.
Why do you
And
think I feel so good in a league where I have him as my wide receiver 4?
yeah, dude, I was drafting him and I was getting slandered this offseason because we play in super flex leagues and I was taking JSN with like the third, the fourth, and the fifth picks. And people were like, why are you taking JSN over CJ Stroud? Why are you taking him over this guy? Dude, JSN is a dog. He's been a dog. And I know it's been said 100 times by all of your favorite analysts, but go look at the Ohio State tape when he was playing alongside Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and then do yourself a favor and go see who was the leading wide receiver on that team, because Jackson Smith and Jigba out-received them each by like 400 and 600 receiving yards.
Interesting.
Like, was
Interesting.
the clear wide receiver one for that team, and it had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. So then it
Who's their
comes to this
quarterback?
time. Justin Fields.
I just wanted to just bring it up.
Yeah. So you get to this point in the offseason, and then people are acting like I'm talking crazy because I said that by this time next year, 12 months from today, we should be talking about JSN the same way we talk about Devontae Smith, the same way we talk about Chris Olave, the same way we're talking about Jalen Waddle. Like, I think that is how we are going to be talking about JSN. So if you guys really wanted to buy into Jalen Waddle or Chris Olave on your fantasy football teams this year, you should have just traded into the 5, 6, 7 spot in your fantasy football drafts and just took JSN, because you're going to get that.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about JSN. I'm a big JSN guy. You know, I've been pumping him all off season. He's been my clear cut wide receiver one. I've been in on this, so this is no news to me. But I'll show you some of the stuff because he is cooking dudes, man. Here's him right here. He's gonna beat this DB. Boom, boom,
Would you trade JSN for Chris Olave?
bing, and then takes this one on the inside. Boom. Would I trade him for? Here's another one. Boom. I mean, he's just gonna do it all for the Seahawks this offseason, man. or this season. Would I trade him for Chris Olave? Um, it's tough, man, because we know that Chris Olave is good, but I think I know that Jackson Smith and Jigba's good too. I think that's the reality of this. And there's one more catch that I want to find. He caught this touchdown pass. Oh, here's one. He beats somebody. You see this one-handed grab. Saw that? Boom. One-handed grab. And then this is the oh yeah, dude, this is nasty. Hold on. This is nasty. Gino rolls out, throws one. Look at this. Both feet down. That's against a first round wide receiver. I mean, a first round corner, guys. That's Kobe Bryant from last year. That's not a scrub. He's playing against the first team. These are good starting cornerbacks in the NFL, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is making him look stupid with the double toe tap. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's going to be a star, and all credit to Derek Brown, Debro, says future alpha. Yeah, guaranteed. And that's what we were talking about. I think is that we think he's going to become the wide receiver one in Seattle, and I think Jackson's going to be a star. I think he's going to be a star, man.
I think so, man, and I'm feeling pretty good. I feel bad in that league because I traded Lamar Jackson for Trevor Lawrence, but we'll see. I feel like long term that was be a good trade, but I would hate for JSN to go off in a championship to be in my grasp, only to have it ripped from me because of that trade. But I digress.
Yeah, I
JSN.
think he's good, man. He's going to be good. Hashtag good for real. So let's talk about one more rookie, and then I'll let you bring up whoever we want to talk about. But the guy I want to talk about is Dalton Kincaid.
Hmm.
Coming out of Bills camp, they're saying first round tight end Dalton Kincaid has looked the part so far. They used a first round pick on him. He's been beating guys in one-on-ones. They're actually saying that for the majority of time, he is playing out at the wide receiver position, and they're using him and Knox on the field at the exact same time, and they're just flexing Kincaid out to the wide receiver position. And funny that this is happening because they said that they wanted to draft Josh Allen's quote unquote Travis Kelce, and
Yeah.
now they're utilizing him like Travis Kelce.
Oh, so you would say that trading him for Goddard would have been a mistake. So I had a good feeling about Dalton Kincaid from day one. That's why I finessed. I forgot who I finessed and had him thrown into the deal because I knew that tight ends will be undervalued, just like I knew I could finesse the guy in the other league where I got Mayer. Like people just don't believe in tight ends. Let me tell these people, we are on the cusp of a tight end renaissance. Just like we're in the midst of a quarterback renaissance where half of the league has a good quarterback. I think the same thing is about to happen to tight ends. The days of just having three good tight ends in fantasy football or in the league is about to be over. I mean, me and Brett, we always argue about, oh yeah, Cole Kmet or Pat Freiermuth. Like 4 or 5 years ago, you would be thrilled if you could have a Pat Freiermuth or a Cole Kmet in your fantasy lineup. That would have been considered a highly above average tight end. So I think now, Kincaid, he definitely has some Travis Kelce in him, and they're using him like Travis Kelce. And I'm excited to see where that's going to go.
Yep, I agree. And I was going to pull this up and play this as we talk because here's some Dalton Kincaid for you because it's just looks good, man. And I think you're right. Let's get these dudes off the screen. Don't care about them. Let's see the highlights. Sorry if this is your guys' video, but at at the end of the day, man, like you said, we're kind of in a tight end renaissance, and we talked about it on this show, and we talked about it earlier this offseason that the tight end class this year was just deep, man. It was a good influx of youth. Guys like Dalton Kincaid, guys like Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta. Like there's a lot of really good guys in this year's class. And honestly, I don't think we talk about it enough. 2022 was solid for tight ends. I mean, we got guys like Dulcich, McBride, Okonkwo. What they turn into, I don't know. I think I like Dulcich the most out of the guys, but
Mhm.
it's it's looking good for the tight end position, man. I don't think there's a lot to be worried about. Obviously, we have some guys like Travis Kelce who, correct me if I'm wrong, 34 years old. We're getting to the end. It sucks because we all love Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce is one of my favorite players I've ever watched. But
The
at
one pop,
34, what, 2 years, 3 years, maybe,
yeah. Travis Kelsey strikes me as I'm going to try to play until I'm 40 type of guy. We'll see though.
maybe. But I also don't see Travis will never be a backup, or if he's splitting time with
No.
a young guy, like I don't see him doing that because he strikes me as the type of person, and this is me talking about a guy that I don't know personally, but he strikes me as the type of person that like he's made his money, he's won his Super Bowls, and he's doing this for fun. And when it's not fun, he's gone. It's gone.
I mean, he'll just go party.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's what he'll do.
we've seen him on the match and some of these other stuff. He's out there shotgunning beers, hitting golf balls, hanging out.
Having
Like,
beer, fighting, punch, uppercuts in camp. Yeah,
yeah, man, he's out here at Dre's nightclub the night before a golf tournament. Like, he's chilling, bro. So I
yeah.
think if it's not fun, it's not fun. It's just it is what it is. And uh, but like you said, Kincaid, we haven't heard a ton about Michael Mayer out of camp yet. But they just cut OJ Howard, and so I know OJ Howard wasn't like
We
somebody
haven't
we were
heard a lot
super
about
worried about.
Mayer because his quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, but it sounds the only thing that I've heard about Michael Mayer is that he's slowly becoming Jimmy's favorite target, which kind of my thought process behind this was like, oh, who was also Jimmy's favorite target not too long ago?
Is it Kittle?
George Kittle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And who always becomes a quarterback who doesn't have a great arm and likes to dink and dunk's favorite target? A tight end.
yeah. So I could definitely see it, and for what it's worth, I love Kincaid, I love Mayer. Both of those guys are my tight end 1A and 1B. I have Michael Mayer above Kincaid. Full disclosure for everybody. I have Mayer above Kincaid. Um, I think he could have a better rookie year. It's going to depend, but both of those guys are going to be studs for your fantasy football teams, and especially if you play in a dynasty league that is tight end premium. Those guys
Mm-hmm.
were they were really good picks for your rosters this offseason. And if I remember correctly, War, I think I got both of them in a league.
Screw you.
I think so. So that's where we're at. And then there's one highlight. We don't got to talk about him because there's not really anything to talk about. But catch of the freaking week. I know we're only on Tuesday. Catch of the week goes to George Pickens. Have you seen this catch yet?
No, let's take a look.
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. He still can't separate. That's been my biggest issue with George Pickens is he can't separate. But oh my god. Let's look at this catch here. Right here, obviously, but just so you can watch. Keep in mind, this is Joey Porter, first round, or not first round corner, was projected a first round corner. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember off the top of my head. He didn't go in the first round, but he was projected to be one of the top corners in this draft. Stud right here, Joey Porter. Can't separate still, right? Still can't separate,
Right.
but we know that he can go up and get a football. Watch this shit. Mm.
Whoa.
Mm.
Whoa. Joey Porter was ready to fight after that, wasn't he?
He said he pushed him off. You see that? He said he pushed me. Pickens is, oh my god. Hold on. Let's run it back one more time. I won't stop it this time. Mm.
Oh, that's a hell of a catch.
God damn. Catch of the week. I can't imagine that anybody beats that catch. I can't imagine anyone beats that catch this week.
Man, that dude is if any modicum of success, that dude's gonna be acting like AB.
Dude. Well, what's the thing about George Pickens is there was character concerns coming in. There was
Yeah.
the
I'll never forget his draft day picture.
NFL young boy.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah, I'll
calling him
never.
NFL young boy.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect segue into what I have to talk about.
Yes. What did you want to bring up?
Andrew, you were right.
What do you mean?
I am officially, I am officially canceling Christmas on Jameson Williamson. He's done. He's done. I know when a player just can't get right. That's him. That's him. Guy's already suspended. Already suspended. Now he's fighting in camp. And not only has he been fighting in camp, he sucked. He has sucked. From everything I'm hearing, the guy has sucked in camp. He was injured, missed all the time, got suspended. I don't like to write off young players, but he definitely is walking the path of a guy that's going to be a bust. He's walking the bust path. His bust to non-Canton is getting prepared already. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not gonna get on here and say I told you so, because at the end of the day, this book isn't written. It's not
All right.
finished yet. Um,
But the
but there
pages are
are
getting
red
ready.
flags. There are some
Yeah.
flags, man, and I feel like there's more and more every day that keep popping up. Um, I think the career trajectory that I'm seeing at the moment, and this may be lazy analysis, if you will, but it feels very Kadarius Toney-esque. That's kind of how this feels. Um, a first round wide receiver who has some character concerns, and then they get to the NFL, and then it's like, okay, there was some validity to these character concerns, and then mistake after immature mistake after immature mistake continues to happen, and then eventually the front office or the head coaching staff or whatever it's going to be is going to say, okay, enough with the second chances. It's make or break time. And then some stupid shit happens again. And then they have to go to a different team and try and figure it out. And my theory and my process that I like to kind of go off of is that for the most part, this isn't an every time instance. It's not 100% success rate. But for the most part, when you go to a second team and the team that drafts you gives up on you,
Mhm.
it doesn't work out. It just doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out.
So
This, in a way, this is almost worse than Kadarius Toney. Let me tell you why. Because I don't know if you knew, or I feel I didn't hear any real character concerns about Jameson coming in. It was just he's injured. But what it seems to be now is progress. So I would rather have a guy who comes into the league with character concerns and then iron things out over a while and get him right. This guy seems to be moving in the opposite direction, where he came in kind of clean, injured but clean, and he's starting to screw up. So to me, what if everything's just getting to him? First, I'm injured. Now I'm suspended. And it just starts to get on that downward spiral. Now we're going to be talking about significant time missed to start his career between an injury and a suspension. So, I mean, some guys aren't able to bounce back from missing that much football, to start their careers off. And that's just a fact. Some can, some can't. And if he doesn't have the mental makeup to rebound from it, he's going to be in trouble, man.
yeah, I agree. You see, we got a comment in here from Sports Spotlight. He says he's wondering who he should be kind of looking at in the fifth round of his 10-man PPR leagues. When I go and look at some of this fifth round ADP, some of the guys that I am seeing in that range is let's just go down here. Some of the guys we're seeing in that range are Jameer Gibbs, ETN, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Deontay Johnson, Alexander Madison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin. Any of these guys sticking out to you? Miles Sanders. Any of those guys sticking out to you in that 5th round?
If you could get JSN or Gibbs, I'm taking a shot. This is redraft.
Redraft, yeah.
Still those
Still?
two.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
still those two.
They have
Redraft.
upside. They just have enough upside. And keep in mind, he says it's a PPR league, so those pass catchers they help, which is Jahmyr Gibbs. But if you're not super confident in taking rookies, I mean, some of these veterans that I like down here, definitely don't mind taking a Brandon Ayuk. I don't mind taking a Deontay Johnson, a Hollywood Brown. I think if you look back when Hollywood Brown was the wide receiver 1 for that team. Now, keep in mind, Kyler was playing quarterback. He was a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. So you have to imagine that there's going to be some upside there. I think you and I have banged the drum for him. Miles Sanders in the 5th round is a very good pick. I think he could be a low-end RB1, a high-end RB2 for you. If you can get him and you're drafting him as like the running back 20.
After the 5th, that'll be even more ideal.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys down there, but I think for me, Gibbs, JSN, Hollywood Brown, Deontay Johnson, Miles Sanders. Those are some of the guys that I like the most down there.
I'm taking DJ Moore over Hollywood and Deontay.
And I like Brandon Ayuk down there.
This is a bear, not just because he's a bear eater, just because the things I've been hearing out of Bears training camp about DJ Moore and Justin Fields, I'm wondering if DJ could finish as like a mid wide receiver 1. Like, I kid you not. He's locking in on DJ. They said DJ's toe dragging. He's going over and mossing people. Like, their connection has been elite in camp so far.
Speaking of which, I'm seeing some Baker Mayfield propaganda right now. I know you were saying that he wasn't going to do anything. But we'll see, man. I think there's some good training camp hype. Is there any storylines we didn't touch on today, War, that you think needs to be touched on? We're just getting started, man. Like, there's a lot of training camp to come. There's NFL football on Thursday night this week. It is not regular season football. It is just Hall of Fame game. But we get some football. So if you've been deprived like I have, we get to watch some guys play.
You get your official first sip of the foam off the beer.
We get to watch Zach Wilson play football on Thursday night.
Wow, Zach Wilson. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So we'll get to see him. I think they said the starting quarterback for the Browns this week is going to be Kellen Mond. So
Kellen Mond. Oh, gee golly.
Kellen Mond. Good old Zach Wilson versus Kellen Mond for probably about a quarter and a half. That's probably about as much as we get out of them before we get to some third string guys.
Anything more regurgitating than a matchup of Zach Wilson and Kellen Mond.
But you know what, War? I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch the whole damn thing.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're a glutton for pain.
I'm going to watch the whole damn thing. I'm going to. You can't stop me. I'm doing
it. There's no wrestling on Thursday for me to distract me from watching football, so I don't even have an out.
Yep. If I had an out, I would avoid it and watch this game. That's how much I've missed football.
Oh, man.
So it is what it is. You said just play Madden?
Yeah, just play Madden.
Hey, the new Madden is coming out here pretty soon, so maybe we will.
Oh, man, I wish it was out today.
Dude, it comes out in, what is it, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Josh Allen's on the cover.
Oh, boy.
But, all right, man, I don't have anything else. Do you?
That was it, man. R.I.P. Jameson. You're done.
R.I.P. So what I want to do, War, and you can shut me down here on the podcast if you say, hey, I'm not interested in doing that. But you and I were brainstorming show ideas. We have some stuff that we could potentially talk about, but we've also talked about this in the past. And I'm thinking you and I do 2 weeks of shows. Next week, we do one of the conferences. We either do an AFC video or we do an NFC video. But what we'll do is we'll preview each of the divisions, each of the teams. We'll pick winners of the divisions. We'll talk about fantasy relevant players in each of those divisions. We'll talk about the conferences, all that stuff, and then we'll do it for each one. That way we can talk about anything fantasy football that we need to talk about in each of those divisions and each of those conferences. Do you have any gripes with that, or is that something you think we should do?
I have no gripes with that. The only potential gripes is a small schedule change for the week of, I think it's next week, but we'll talk about that off the air.
Okay, sounds good. Because we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 shows until week 1 football is there.
Oh, yeah.
So 4 more shows. So we got to talk about these conferences sooner or later. It's probably got to be, yeah, we got to do it. So we'll do that.
Yeah. We will see you people next week. That is a guarantee. We will see you next week.
Yes, and if you're watching and you want to watch mock drafts as well, where we are helping you prepare for fantasy football drafts, I'm doing a mock draft Monday every single week here until week 1 of the season again. So every Monday we do a mock draft. If you missed yesterday's, you can go watch the replay in the live section of our channel. But we're doing mock drafts. We're talking fantasy football. We're kind of going to have to start talking about it in a term of single season. I know we still talk. This is Let's Talk Dynasty. We talk Dynasty Fantasy Football on this show specifically. But it's about time that we need to start scoring some points in these leagues. So we'll be talking about it in that aspect as well.
Time to put some numbers on the board.
All that roster construction, all that time to make it look pretty, it's out the window now. You need to score points. It's time to win championships. We're right around the corner. So hope you guys enjoyed it.
Checks, baby.
Exactly. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you guys on the next episode. War, final thoughts? If nothing.
Yes, final thoughts. We are back. SummerSlam this Saturday. Crimson Mass. We are back with a live show. Check us out on YouTube at The Crimson Mass Show. Check us out online, www.crimson-mass.com. See us there. We are back and better than ever. August 5th, SummerSlam, baby. Let's go.
And you got some Logan Paul in the SummerSlam, is from what I hear.
Logan Paul. Let's go.
All right, man. We will. Oh, and we got Jake Paul fighting this upcoming week. So we got full Paul brothers on display. But we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.